Gracious Father in heaven, thank you so much for your love for us. Thank you for this lesson that we have today. Thank you for the advice, the counsel, the help that Scripture is to us in building and developing relationships that will not only help us enjoy each other, but also guide us to your kingdom. So bless us now as we open Scripture. Send your Holy Spirit to touch our minds and empower our hearts. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Revival is what we've been studying. And it says that unity is the bond of revival. In other words, if we want revival, if we want to be renewed in our relationship with God, unity is what binds us together. Now, maybe we should even go further and say it's unity that helps build the revival. Developing unity helps develop revival. The two assist each other, do they not? Is that correct? Okay. Can you have one without the other? Can you have revival and not have unity? Let me turn it around the other way. Can you have, which did I say? Can you have revival without unity? Can you have unity without revival? Now, when you think about it, revival is about moving your experience toward God. Unity is about relationships in the body of Christ. If there's no cohesion here, if we push each other out of the circle, what's happening to the relationship with God?
You're out of it too.
You're hindering it. Yeah, you're pushing people away from here. In fact, we're going to discover that I think it's absolutely, totally impossible to have revival without unity. I don't think the two can exist without each other. They must coexist. Each one, unity and revival, must coexist in order for either to exist. Now, I want you to turn to the Gospel of John, chapter 17. It's in our lesson somewhere. Don't ask me where. John chapter 17. We're going to spend a little time there. I want to go through some things with you that are very, very critical. First of all, someone read for us verses 9, I think it's to 13. Yes. 9 to 11. Let's just take 9 to 11. John 17, 9 to 11. Who'd like to read that, please?
I'll read it.
Okay.
I pray for them. I do not pray for the world, but for those whom you have given me. For they are yours, and all mine are yours, and yours are mine, and I am glorified in them. Now I am no longer in the world, but these are in the world, and I come to you, Holy Father. Keep through your name those whom you have given me, that they may be one as we are.
Thank you. Now, how many times have you read this in your life? Probably many. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's meaningful. No question about it. It's meaningful. But I want us to take a little more time and really look at it to see what Jesus is really saying. Just in case you're wondering, I have these verses here so that I can look at them piecemeal. First of all, what is this discourse? Who's talking?
Jesus.
Jesus. Who's he talking to?
Disciples.
Father.
Actually, the Father. Who's he talking about? The disciples, his followers, his people. Now, think of the context. What is the period of time in the universe's history, when is this happening?
Probably at about the most important time in the whole history of the universe.
Very key.
Probably fairly within a week or two of the crucifixion, maybe closer than that even.
And the crucifixion is the most pivotal point in the history of God. Do you agree with that? What event has God been involved in all of history that would be more important than the separation of the Godhead? You realize that's what happened in the death of Jesus. The first time in the history of divinity, that includes everything then, doesn't it? That overshadows human history, other planets. As long as the universe has been here, this was going to be the first time that the members of the Godhead were separated. Totally. Cut off from each other. Is that important to them, do you think?
Very.
Absolutely. It is absolutely crucial. This is a pivotal point. This is a turning point in all of history. Now, you can take all of history from before that, and you can see the bump in the road that had just come along just 4,000 years before, 3,500 years, whatever. And that is when the creation of man, and then you have the fall. And so man now, for the first time, with the fall of Lucifer and the fall of this planet, we see characteristics other than God's being exposed and lived. Characteristics that are damning to life, destructive to happiness, remove joy, characteristics that you practice. That didn't sound too good now, did it? But don't we? We were born in it. It's just a part of us. In fact, that's what the cross is all about, is to remove that. There goes legalism. And also there goes this philosophy that just love the Lord and doesn't matter what you do. Because the cross was to remove the bad behavior. Okay, so here we say, Jesus praying to his Father, he says, I am praying for who? Here we have Jesus. He's the one praying. He is praying for who? He says,
Them which thou hast given me.
he says them. That's the word used here, right? I am praying for them. He says, I am not praying for who? Hard to write way down there. He says, I'm not praying for them. For these down here. I'm praying for these. Whom you have what?
Given me.
For they are whose?
Thine.
Now wait a minute. God up here gave these people to Jesus because they belong to him. Now wait a minute. Who are you? Who are you?
Oh, God's.
You either belong to him and therefore to him, or you're here. There's no two ways about it, folks. Right? And who gets to decide? If you're one of these, belonging here, or if you're here? Who decides?
We do.
We do. Well, let's keep reading. All of mine are whose?
Thine.
Thine. So all that belong to Jesus, if you're part of Jesus, if you've accepted him, all of mine are yours. and yours are mine. Why?
Because God and Jesus are unified.
Oh, this is one. Didn't he say that a couple of times, 2 or 3 in the Old Testament? Actually, it's about 2,000 times. We are one, we are one, we are one. And so some people not being able to get past the unity concept, that this oneness is about unity, not number. This is a word of relationship, not of count. Okay? So in the Old Testament, where he keeps saying that we are one, the we is the count, the one is the relationship. Now that dispels all of your Old Testament problem with counting. Because Jesus is saying what's mine is yours and what's yours is mine. Why? Not based on the count, but based on the relationship. Do you want an example? And I would dare you to disprove this. If you can make this fail, then we got a problem here. 2 people are married. Without any unfaithfulness, they have a child. You know where I'm going. Are all of her children his children, and all of his children her children?
Yes.
Can't be any other way. It took 2 to have a child. And what's one is the other's, and what's the other's is one, but they are one mankind. God made us in His image. Now, how did God make us in His image? Let's do this again. It says He made us in His image. Number 1, how are we made in God's image? Genesis chapter 1, starting at verse 26. The next half a dozen or so verses. First of all, he says, let us make man in our... Go ahead and turn to Genesis 1. Just take a second and go there. Because I intend to spell these out. And I want you to be sure you understand them and go home and study them a little more. Genesis chapter 1. Someone read verse 26. And I want you to listen carefully to what it says.
Then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth.
Okay, thank you. First of all, let who?
Us.
Is that a count as well as a relationship?
It's a count to me.
How many in the count?
More than one.
More than one. We would call that plurality. What does it mean to be plural?
Not singular.
Not singular. Anything more than one. Okay? Could be a trillion, could be 2. The plurality of something. There's more than one. All right? First of all, God says, let us make man in our image. There's that plurality of the Godhead. And he says, we are going to make them in our image. And then he repeats it. Now, if you read verse 27, you'll find something else. Please read verse 27.
So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him, male and female. He created them.
So there it is. There's proof that there was more than one because they were in what form? What are the 2 parts of the unity in man?
Male and female.
Male and female. Okay, so the male and female proves that we are plural. But now in verse 26, he says, let us make man in our image. Let them have what?
Dominion.
Dominion. Now, dominion comes in two forms. What is it? If I say I have dominion, there's two things I could be talking about. Either one or maybe both. And in this case, it's both. What is the dominion that man has?
Control.
Control. Okay, so one of them is control. I'll have to abbreviate for my space. What's the other one? Control what? You'd have to have something to control, wouldn't you? Mm-hmm. Okay, so this dominion includes place. What is the place that God gave to man? Earth. Okay, He gave us earth. He said it's yours, and He expects us. He commanded us to take care of it. Okay, so He gave us the place, and then He said, now take care of it. Control over it. And He tells us to take good care of it. Treat it nicely. One of the reasons for the flood is we weren't treating it nicely. Okay, so we have the plurality of man. We have the dominion, meaning control. We have dominion, meaning the place. That's three things. Now, let me do that later. Why did I do that?
I don't know. I was thinking the same thing.
When you think, you're supposed to speak. Okay?
Well, I figured the dominion was both things.
Well, but it's two different things, so I intended to give it another
All
number.
right.
Okay? What's number 4? What's another thing that God gave to man?
Hang on, that would be number 3, because number 2 was divided into 2 parts.
Well, it's two different dominions. So if you want to take the word dominion out, you could say He gave us control and He gave us a place.
Okay.
It'd be easier to think of if I'd trade places with those. He gave us a place, but He also put us in charge. Okay? So He made us plural, gave us a place, planet Earth, and put us in charge. Two different things. Because you can have a place and not be in charge. You can be in charge and it's not your place. Okay? So these are separate items, and we are made in His image. Does God have a place? Is He in charge?
Yes.
Sure. So these are all separate characteristics of God. Now, what is a fourth item here that God speaks of? Read verse 28.
Then God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth.
Okay, so what's number 4?
Replenish.
Multiply.
Multiply. We might even call it create life. Are we not able, through the powers that God gave us, to create life? It's life that does not exist. And through the things that God, through the design that God made the earth, it can create more life. It's a good thing because it's dying off. And if we couldn't create new, the world would be bare now, wouldn't it? Both of plants, animals, birds, people, everything. Now, there's an implied one also. Number 5, that's implied just by virtue of the text. And God said, and then in verse 28, He said to them. Question, in the Genesis account, what did God tell the animals to do?
Be fruitful and multiply.
Did He tell them to do that? Or did they do that? Let me ask another question while you're thinking on that. What did God tell the animals to eat?
Plants.
Did He tell them to do that? Or did He tell somebody else that that's what they should eat? Interesting question, isn't it? Look right there. You'll find it.
Yeah, verse 24 says, and God said, let the earth bring forth
Let it. Okay?
the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping things.
Now that would be the creation when He put it there.
Right.
But now in these verses, now that it's all there and He started giving instruction, Because that's what we're reading in verse 28. That's instruction, isn't it? Then God blessed them, and God said to who? Who's the them?
To them,
Who would that them be?
the humans that he had just created.
These people, okay, because that's who we're just talking about, right? And he said to them, be fruitful and multiply. So he told them to multiply. He told them to their face, okay? Fill the earth, subdue it, and do all of this. And God said in verse 29, I have given you, who's he talking to again? Them. He tells them the food, and then what does he tell them beyond themselves about food? What food is for who? In the rest of that verse.
I have given every green herb for food.
He's telling these people that somebody else should eat what?
He's telling them what to eat.
That was in the first part. Let me read it for you. I'm being so ambiguous to not give the answer that you can't follow my question. Verse 29, so God said, see, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth. And every tree whose fruit yields seed, to you it shall be for food. Verse 30, also, to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth in which there is life, I have given every green herb for food. End quote. So he was talking to Adam and Eve the entire time, right? So did he say that to the animals? Or did he say it to Adam and Eve?
Said it to Adam and Eve.
He said to Adam and Eve what the animals should eat. He didn't talk to the animals. He was only talking to them. What does that imply about how these people were made that the animals weren't? They were able to have a relationship with the Creator that none of the rest of the creation had. There's no indication that the animals, who he was talking about eating the trees, the herbs, there was no indication that he talked to them and said, now here's what I expect of you. But he did them. They had a relationship with the Creator. They had the ability to understand concepts of their Creator. Now think about it. Do you think a dog can understand anything about you?
Something.
Does he know if you're happy or mad? Oh, yeah. Sure they do. Dogs are very keen on our emotions and our feelings and a lot of things beyond that. They can protect you from things you don't even know is danger, and they sense it. Now, that's a little bit of their ability to understand something about us. Do you think they understand God that way, though?
No.
Do you think a dog knows about stealing from God or worshiping an idol?
No.
But these are things that we understand very well. We have an ability, God has given our minds an ability to comprehend the divine. This, he says, is an image of what?
Himself.
Right there. Okay, so we were made in the image of God with at least these 5 things. Now this is interesting because usually when I ask someone, what does it mean to be made in the image of God? They say physical. And I say, where's the word in the text? And nowhere can you find physical image written in Genesis 1 or anywhere else in Scripture for that matter. So we put something in the text that isn't there, therefore putting a concept that is not there, and in the process, and here's the danger, in the process of putting something there that isn't there, we miss what is there. Because we're focused on something that isn't. And so we miss what is. Now, let me take just a short moment here and tell you why I spent the time to write this up here. This represents who you are. Make no mistake, you didn't evolve. You're not a fancy work of plasma or something that just evolved out of somewhere, or a frog or a tadpole. You don't have to go to the zoo to talk to your father. You were made in the very image of God. Our problem as sinners is we see ourselves down here. We're not. In fact, let me show you something else. Satan had a problem in heaven. He got jealous. Jealousy is about somebody having something you don't have, and you want to attain what they have. Envious of something better. You never see someone envying someone below them. Oh, I wish I were a drunk and had no money. You never see people do that. For one, if they wanted it, they can have it. Right? It's going up the ladder that we have a hard time doing, getting something that somebody else has that we haven't attained, whether it's intellect or relationships or money or lifestyle, doesn't matter. Somebody that has something greater than you have, that's where jealousy comes from. I wish I had. Envious. Satan was here, not here. Let me prove to you, show you some things that put him down here and not up here. Number one, is Satan plural? Does he have a partner? Is there such thing as angel kind? No. Or is it just angel? Just angel, isn't it? There's no plurality. Number two, what did Satan have control of as an angel in heaven? As a holy angel in heaven, what did he have control of? He was a servant. Did he have a place in heaven that belonged to him?
The anointed cherub that covers, he had a position.
He had a position, but it didn't belong, the place didn't belong to him. Didn't have authority. He was just a trusted servant. That's three things he didn't have that you have. Number four, are there little baby angels running around from Satan? Thankfully. Number five, could he have a relationship with God? Sure. This he had. Of the five things stated or implied in Genesis 1 of the creation of the human race, you and I, only one of these did Satan have. Isn't that interesting? In a sense, we see that we have four attributes similar to God. After all, is God plural? Yes, but Satan is not. Does God have control? Yes, but Satan does not. Does he have a place? Yes, but Satan does not. Can he create? Yes, but Satan cannot. God is a creator. He speaks, and it happens. Now, when I say create, you understand that I'm not saying we can speak and create matter to come into existence. We're not talking about that. We're talking about taking the powers that God gave us and have an end result that we can't have on our own. I mean, we couldn't do it had God not given us that ability. Now, if God gave us these attributes similar to himself, and Satan does not have them, you can understand a little better the jealousy on Satan's part. He's not only jealous of God, but now when God creates man, and it sounds like from Ellen White that Satan's jealousy began to stir when God was talking about doing this. So is it possible that Satan was hearing rumblings, as we say? He overheard some of the conversation. After all, he's the covering cherub. Did Satan hear some of those plans? And he says, no, wait a minute. I'm the covering cherub, and you're going to give them this, and I don't have it.
How come there was only one of them then?
Maybe it's because only one was that high. to be that concerned about it? I don't know. Why did even one do it? What does the Bible call it? The mystery of iniquity. No excuse for violating this relationship. There's no reason, in other words. There's no cause. It was purely by choice. David.
You know, Christianity, many in Christianity teach that Satan has that ability to create. Why is that?
I don't know why they teach that. Because I'd like to see his little imps if he has them, because I want to know who they are and face them.
Yeah, me too.
Not alone.
Because they get this theory that Satan intermingled, or Satan's angels intermingled with mankind.
I get that back in Genesis, that part. Yeah.
Jumps and so forth. I just heard this again
Yeah.
the other night on TV. A famous preacher brought that out, that they united with mankind.
David, if that were true,
We would have angels today
well,
doing the
why
same
would
thing, would we not?
that was going to be my point? Why wouldn't there be millions of them? He could overrun the earth with them and have control. If Satan could in any way multiply, he'd get rid of us stubborn little replicas of God who he hates so much. He wouldn't need to interfere with this relationship. He could just replace us. See, it totally undermines all of the character and qualities of God. Let's move on. Our time is running low very quickly. Now, what we're looking at here is how man was made initially in the image of God. Through sin, we fell. In fact, be careful how I mean this. Follow me. Here's the fall. Because at the time of this prayer that we're talking about, where is Jesus?
He's on the earth.
Okay, so we have earth here, and heaven is where God is. Okay, so Jesus has already been separated physically from the Father. Satan has joined planet Earth, this part here, with these beings that were once created in his image. In their sin, he has come and joined them. But there's still a unity that exists. He talks about it. In death, that is broken entirely, isn't it? The communication is cut off entirely. And Jesus dies alone. It's about this over here. Unity. That oneness. That oneness, that unity had to be broken. There had to be total separation between Christ and the Father, because that's what sin causes. And the only way he could earn the right to forgive you and me is for him to go through what we're going to go through if we pay for our sin. And make no mistake about it, folks. You will pay for your sin. Or Jesus will. I oftentimes approach them the other way and say, can you pay for your sin? And people say no. And I say, oh yes, you can and you will. But you can't do it and live. There's the hitch. We want to live. We want to go on through eternity. So we can't pay for our sin and stay down here in the sin arena and still have eternal life. So Jesus joins us in the sin arena. But he still has the unity with the Father. And then Jesus continues his prayer in verse 20. Now, take your Bibles and follow along with me, but I want to just take this step by step. He says, I do not ask for these alone. Who's the these here? That would be the disciples. That's this group. Here it was them. Now he refers to these. I do not ask for these only, but also for those who will, what's the next word? Believe in who?
Me.
me through what?
Their word.
Oh, follow this. So here is them. Jesus witnessed to them. Now he's praying for them that they have a good relationship, because they're going to have this relationship because them, in this case, these, witnessed to them. Wow. This is expanding, isn't it? It's growing. Keep reading. Just as you, Father, are in me, and I'm in you, so that also, in other words, he was saying that these people could be in him, and he in them, so that the world may know, and these people are in him, and he's in them, and these people witness to them, so that, now we go to something else. This is what is. Now we're looking at what's the purpose. Why? So that the world may what?
Believe.
Know, believe. That you have sent who? Me. The glory that you have given me. Oh no, wait a minute. Now we're talking about something else. God gave Jesus what?
Glory.
Glory. Glory flows this way. The glory that you have given me, I have given to, he passed it to them. Now hang on, don't forget this part of it. That they may be one, even as you are one. As we are one. Now wait a minute. What is God's glory? You're not going to understand this unless you know what His glory is. His glory went to Jesus. Jesus gave His glory to them. And what was the purpose of giving their glory? What does it say? See the word that? That means
They may be one.
that they may be one, even as we are one. So, glory makes these one. He gave them glory so that they would all be one. But what's His glory? What's another word for glory?
Character.
The character of God is His glory. The glory of God is His character. Don't forget it, folks. This is crucial. Here's the gospel. This is not only the gospel, it's the gospel commission. Remember the arrows? Christ gave to them. They were to give to them gospel commission. Okay? What are you giving? What are they getting? Now it talks about His glory, His character. Oh, so in other words, God helped Jesus to build character. Jesus helps His followers to build what? Character. He calls it giving them His glory. Now think about it. How does a Christian, a true Christian, look to the world? Do they look like a dead rock or a sun? A star shining. They exude a whole different life, don't they? They have qualities and characteristics that the world doesn't even know what to do with them. They don't even like it many times because it's offensive to them, because you're just too kind. Isn't that interesting? It's kind of like a guy that's been in a dark cellar walking out into the sunlight. There's just too much sun. Got to get rid of some of this. But those that are used to dwelling in the sun, they love it. It's natural. It's normal. Okay, so the glory of God is given to Jesus on earth. Pause. How were Adam and Eve made? Not talking about this. What condition were they in?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Now, I made one mistake. I should really have written it in another color. Because so far, red represents what? On the board up here, what is written in red?
Attributes of God.
Okay, the attributes and the relationships, right? And how it flows. And it represents the glory and character of God. But as far as how Adam and Eve were created, did He create them with a perfect character?
Yes.
Trick question.
Jeff, you know too much. Behave yourself. Why is it a trick question, Jeff?
Because character is something that has to be developed.
Is character something that is created in the sense of God speaking and it's there? Or is it something that we develop by choice?
We develop it by choice.
We develop it by choice. Just like God gave us the ability to multiply, but we do it by choice. Okay? God gave us a place and He gave us control over it, but we will treat it how we choose. So there's choices involved in here. Man has even taken this and said, I choose to have it differently. Let's have two gods or two Jesuses. Let's not have it this way. You know, two men or two women. And let's just mess up the plurality of how God designed it. Certainly we can do better. So God made man perfect, but it was perfect in what? Now, what does that mean for Adam and Eve to have been created with a perfect nature? What are we saying?
They were perfect in everything except when it came to making choices and stuff because they had an option to choose.
Okay, so all the mechanics was perfect.
Right.
All of the faculties were perfect. What we do with them is character. Now, I'm clear off on this corner of the board, but character's up there. Where is it? Clear back here. And that's the glory of God, is character. So in other words, if man used all of these with the right choice, because his nature was perfect, there was no flaws in his design, there was no reason for him not to have a perfect character as well. So as Adam and Eve started making choices, they were developing their own glory. Notice I didn't use this word. The Bible says that in the kingdom to come, when God takes His people to heaven, to His kingdom, and He sets up His kingdom, He says the kings of the earth will bring their glory. Amazing, because most of the time in the Bible, glory is attributed to God. But God, in these verses, is telling us that He gave His glory to Jesus as a human on earth. Jesus, as a human on earth, gave glory to them. That's character development. Tell me, before this gets old and rusty in your mind, tell me, how can glory, which is character, passed on and encouraged and developed in another person, how can you say, I can come to Christ and I don't need to change? Live like hell and reflect the glory of God? Are you kidding me? That's not even a joke. Think about it. Glory is character. See, the only thing God didn't give Adam and Eve in creation was glory. What they did with what He gave them would be their glory. Glory is about what you've done with what you have. We talk about pride. We talk about feeling good. We talk about being happy at what we've done. That's our glory. The development, the use we've made of the facilities, the faculties, all the resources that God has given us. That's character. Creation happened 6,000 years ago. And then recreation has been happening ever since. To recreate in these individuals the image that God gave us in the first place. The gospel is about nothing except the character of God being replaced into the people that God created. Right? That's the gospel. That's what recreation is. That's what salvation is to save us from the damnation of sin. And the only way to do that is to put glory, character, back into man. It's pretty simple, isn't it? It's simple. All we're talking about in the gospel is character. Following the principles of God. Sin is violating the principles of God, twisting them, bending them, leaving them, not utilizing them. So the character of God is passed to Jesus, who taught it to us. We got to see the Godhead in the vision, in the eyes, in the life, and the ministry of Jesus. So we saw God up here, which we cannot see, visible in our world. And so as we duplicate the character of Jesus, we not only become like Him, but like Him because they're the same. Now, unity. Now, wait a minute. Unity with who? Where's the unity in all of this? What does unity mean?
Oneness.
Oneness. And you could add words like togetherness, closeness, togetherness. Okay, so the unity that Jesus had with God, He wants us to have with each other and with Him. So if Jesus took on the character of God, that made them united, didn't it? They had to cooperate and work together. So as I cooperate and work with Christ, I'm united with Him. But that also means that if I have Jesus' character and this person, this is you, you have His character, doesn't that make us the same? In the sense of character?
Yes.
So the unity with each other comes by each of us looking at the same example. So I don't have to paint my house the color of your house. I paint my house like Joe's house, and if you paint your house like Joe's house, then you and I have houses the same color. You see what I'm saying? But I didn't copy your color. I copied Joe's house. So as I copy Jesus, and you copy Jesus, we're going to have something in common here. Because if you treat Jesus right, that means you're going to have the character to treat me the same way that you treat Jesus, which is the same way that I would treat you, which is the same way I would treat Jesus, which is the way Jesus would treat me, which is the way Jesus would treat you. Called unity. Pretty simple, isn't it? Now the question that we started with, is it possible, I'm going to change the words a little bit, to have the glory of God and not have unity?
No.
Why? Joe's like, how could you even ask such a dumb question? I mean, we spent the whole time looking at it, and there it is in our face.
Because you're not using the same example. You're not going back to Jesus and stuff. You're not like Him.
No. Everything here points to unity, doesn't it? Everything. All these lines is unity. It's just so interwoven. We're just intermingled so much that where do I and Jesus begin and end? I'm like him and he's like me because I took on his character. I'm taking on his traits. I was down here. But when God redoes the earth, when it's all done and said, the reality is it's going to be this way. And these people are what? Dead and destroyed for all eternity. Those who have not chosen to have the unity, the character, the glory of God will be removed from the universe. And those who are at one with God will physically, literally be with him where he is. Isn't that exactly what Jesus was praying? His prayer ended with something like that. In verse 22, I and them, you and me, that, here's the purpose, they may become perfectly one. Why? So that the world may know that you sent me and loved them even as you loved me. Father, I desire also that they also whom you have given me may be what?
With me.
With me, where I am. And now he's speaking prophetically. He's going somewhere. Okay? To see my glory that you have given to me. In other words, I want to go back here where you are, and I want to take them with me so that they can see the glory that you gave to me way back in the beginning, initially. That you have given me because you loved me before what?
The foundation of the world.
So before earth was created, before man was made, this Jesus who they walked and talked with had already been with the Father and had that glory. He says, I want them to see it. Now, why would he want you to see it? I can think of a few reasons. Russell?
Well, God is love, and love can't exist by itself. So the more creatures there are to love, the better it is for God.
Okay, good point. Good point. Jeff, how does his remark coincide with our definition of love? That love cannot exist by itself. Love is what?
Love is giving all of your resources to benefit the object of your affection.
So it can't exist alone, can it? It wouldn't be love.
Yeah.
If God were the only one in the universe, love doesn't exist because his resources aren't committed to anyone. See, there's the aspect of love that we miss as human beings. It isn't possible to love oneself. That's not love. Love is in a relationship with another being. Okay? So self-centeredness, selfishness is the opposite of love. You have love and selfishness. They're not the same. They took the principle of love and bent it around back. So that would be like telling your GPS, I want to go to Chicago, and then set the destination for home. You ever going to get to Chicago? No, because it's going to keep sending you home. That's what selfishness does. Took the principle of giving, but turns it on self, and it goes nowhere. So in our equation here, Jesus is saying, these people have seen this. They know what sin looked like. But I want them to thoroughly, totally comprehend and experience what I intended them to have, which was back here in the beginning. So the ultimate end, I shouldn't say end, the ultimate journey of life for all eternity for you to experience is this glory character and oneness of divinity, just like God intended in the beginning. So even though this cropped up, the degradation of sin, guess what? He's going to remove it and take us back to the origin. But it's not the same. You break your arm, it'll heal, but it's not the same. If you break your arm again, it will not be where you broke it before. Why?
Where it healed, it's stronger.
That's correct. And Russell, there's a principle that we've not talked about here today. The people that go into God's kingdom from planet Earth are stronger, have a knowledge, have an understanding, a commitment, a love to God that no one else in the universe can match. Because we know God in a way they don't know Him. We are stronger. That's why we will be kings and priests in His universe. We can lead in things they do not know. We can teach them things they do not know. Let's pray. God and Father, help us in our journey in receiving the glory of Jesus, which was the glory of God. Help us in our daily walk to walk the path that causes us to choose You in every regard, so that as we step by step take on Your character, making choices to follow Your principles, we will receive Your glory, developing Your character, so that we can return it back to You and reward You for all that You have done in our behalf. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.